once you kind of pass that and you're ready for exponential growth, even as a service provider, or you want to like launch that idea to an investor, I think that's when you really need a website.
Child doesn't hesitate. It shows you their like artwork and they do it with confidence. And after that, just edit. And the result can really lead to the same outcomes.
And I was able to find the developer who created this plugin I used and kind of ask some basic questions and was able to create this gorgeous like website, well, landing page. The timeline that you have is set for yourself. You got to be kind to yourself and just give yourself grace.
Hi, welcome to Freelancing Unfiltered, the podcast where we set the polished answers aside and get real about what it actually takes to build a business that works for you. I'm your host, Adalogu, a freelance operations manager and systems strategist. And each week, I'll be sitting down with freelancers, entrepreneurs, and founders who are boldly building their own paths. Here we talk about the things most people really only murmur about, that messy middle, the money, the mindset, the burnout, the breakthroughs, and the systems that keep it all running. So if you're ready for the kind of conversation that cut through the noise, crack open real insight, and remind you that you're not alone in figuring it out, you're in the right place. And today I'm joined by Helen Olivia. Helen is a Squarespace designer and developer who has built a business that works around her life. After leaving her 9 to 5 in fashion design, she dove into the world of web design and digital strategy, helping service based business owners launch websites that are beautiful, functional, and optimized for search engines. Now, as a mom of two under three, Helen knows firsthand what it's like to balance nap times with client calls and creative bursts that happen after bedtime. Through her journey, she's learned that building a business isn't about doing it all. It's about designing systems and spaces that support the life she actually wants. When she's not building Squarespace websites or creating digital templates that help others launch faster, you'll find her getting lost in YouTube how-to videos, reorganizing something that didn't need reorganizing, or chasing her kids around the living room. So let's dive in. Helen, welcome to Freelancing Unfiltered.
Hey, how's it going? I'm so glad we're finally able to do this.
I know. We've known each other for a while and we've been able to really support each other in different projects. So I'm really happy to have you on as one of the first guests. Thanks so much, Helen.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, and also by the way, Helen is up at 6 a.m. her time in order to get ahead and make sure things are quiet for this session. So I really appreciate Helen for showing up and giving the time. Yeah. So
Uh,
the first question I have for you, Helen, is just questions around kind of what you do and really getting an idea of Helen and what her life looks like, especially as a Squarespace designer. So when somebody asks what you do, what's your one-time answer today versus the day that you left fashion?
Today, I tell them that I'm basically like a digital marketer, mostly because I've ended up learning everything that you need to do in order to show up online. So, when I first kind of left my job, I wanted to be a website designer, or I guess I started off as a virtual assistant and then a website designer. And then slowly, I just kind of like end up learning all the different things because you're no longer just a worker. You also have to market yourself. And so
Mm,
then it kind of led me to like branch out, learn about copywriting and SEO, and then branding and designing. And it just all kind of like came together. And I realized like those are the stuff that you kind of need in order to show up. And it just helps you connect with people better. And so, yeah, I now kind of basically call myself a digital marketer, and I'm still kind of like figuring out the phrase. But if I really need to break it down and what I mostly focus on, I would just also kind of go down to a website designer, developer, and then just kind of go from there.
okay. Okay, good to know. What from fashion design do you think secretly makes you a better web designer?
So in fashion design, I've always wanted to be in fashion since I was in eighth grade. And it's
Really?
kind of, yeah, it kind of started off as home ec class. And for some reason, maybe it's like the Asian culture side where it's just like I felt like we always had to like know like what we wanted to do from the get go. And I took this home ec class and made an apron, and I absolutely fell in love with the process. Like I could not stop talking about it. I could not like go to sleep because I was so excited from like the sewing, the
Mhm.
needles, and so then I just kind of geeked out from that. And I remember in high school, I told my mom, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a fashion designer. And it was kind of weird because in my culture, it's almost like, well, in order to make out of it, because we're also first generation,
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, well, you need to be a doctor. And I was like, I'm not gonna be a freaking doctor. Like, we're in America, and they told us that
You can be
you can do
anything.
whatever you want. You can be anything. And that's what Barney told me. I was like, I'm gonna be a fashion designer.
Wait, who's
And
Barney?
so
Your teacher?
no, I'm sorry, Barney, the purple
Oh,
dinosaur.
Barney. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so I
That's
thought
so
about him a lot, even as, like, in 8th grade, which is kind of wild. And, yeah, so I just kinda went all in, took home ec class, and going back to the question of how it all kind of started, so yeah, I took all these fashion classes, then I went to FITM, the fashion school out here in LA, and they had a direction where you can go into technical design or just focus on the pretty stuff of things. And based on what they broke down, I realized that I like the engineering aspect of fashion design, which they called a technical designer. So it's exactly what it is. It's very super technical. And so when I had my first internship, well, actually, maybe it's my second internship before I graduated. I was at Billabong and I just found myself falling in love with like Excel sheets and like being technical to the point where, like, you talk about what kind of stitchings you're gonna be using, what kind of thread, what color, what kind of buttonholes, like, all that technicality, I absolutely loved and thrived on,
wow.
and the way how it translates to doing what I was doing was that when I think it was 2020 around November, I knew that it was just time for me to get out of corporate, and so that was when I kinda stumbled across OSP with Aaron, and that's how we found each other,
Yeah.
and
That was so long ago now. It's been like 5 years?
yeah, 5 years, which is, like, so wild to see that we're still doing this,
I
except,
know.
like, in our own, like, groove,
In Orleans.
And, yeah, so just kind of, like, doing the OSP and then creating my website, I, like, got super hooked, and, I created my first website through Squarespace, and there was, like, some certain layout stuff that I was, like, wanting to experiment with, and it kinda led me to enroll another course while I was with OSP, with Square Stylist, and so she's the one who kinda taught me everything, um, through her course called Standout Squarespace, and from there, that was when I just realized, like, my fashion kinda translates to my website design because it allowed for me to use my artistic skills and then also my technicality skills to kind of create a website that helped people to optimize, and then that's where, like, every single time I came a spot or situation where I didn't fully understand what it meant, I just kept on buying more courses about it. So,
Mm,
like, for, like, websites, like, how to now finally translate is that, like, I don't know, when I first came on the scene, I wanted to create something pretty. So that was, like, my fashion mindset. I want something aesthetic and pretty. But then people kept on talking about, like,
Helen's
conversion and
websites
then,
are
like
so pretty. Sorry to interrupt, but, like, I just remember thinking, like, "Oh my gosh," like, I've seen your work and obviously your website as well. You guys should go check it out. It's helenolivia.com, like, so pretty. And then, like, thinking that I know, like, the inner workings that you've put inside it, like, the act like, making it functional, making it readable, making it convert. I'm like, "Oh my god." Yeah. But yeah, keep going.
no, that's so that's thank you for saying that because I remember, like, in college, I had taken, a coding class, and I remember our first project was building a calculator, and I definitely failed that. I was not able to build my calculator, so I just never
Mm,
thought that this was even possible for me. So even till
mhm.
today, it's, like, always, like, I don't know, it's just so exciting just be able to
Yeah.
pivot and then doing well with it and then also enjoying that process. So, yeah, that's when I kind of knew that my previous skills translating to website has been really amazing, and then not only that, my skills that I've learned just from, um working with other people and then understanding the psychology of why things work also
Yeah.
translated to, like, website design. Like, it kind of start learning about sales psychologies and buyer psychology, and then that just made the whole process even more fun and exciting, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. It
It's
kinda
so
gives me more of a
interesting.
purpose.
It's so interesting. I didn't know. Well, obviously, it's interesting. I knew you were in fashion in the fashion space and you were in fashion design. I didn't know you that you started out with a lot of passion for it. When do you think that kind of like transitioned into like thinking, oh, like I love fashion, but this corporate space and the pace and the lifestyle that it wants me to have is not something I think I can sustain.
It was when I had gotten let go because originally, going back to my story, when I was interning at Billabong, it was like a God-given moment where, like, after being there for, like, 3 months, I was basically given a job there, and I remember the first time I asked for the job position, they denied me because they were like, "We
Mm,
don't have an open spot for you."
yeah.
And then I asked them again on my very last day, and they're like, "Come back again after, New Year's Eve, and then we'll see what we can do." So they built
Mm.
me this brand new position for me, and
Wow.
then yeah, so it was like, "Oh, okay," and I remember praying about it, like, "If this is for me, God, please let me have it," and sure enough, he blessed me that job, and I was let go from that job temporarily because they brought me on as a temp. So I basically had 90 days to prove to them that, like, I'm worthy to stick around, and when they had let me go, I got a glimpse of what it looks like to work at a different setting, and it was with Aloe Yoga. And they absolutely loved me there. I was there for 3 weeks, and they were ready to bring me on full time. But then my boss, not having me for a whole month at Billabong, he was just like, "Oh, no, like, everything's falling apart. We need you." Like, he was fighting, like, for HR to bring me on board, and, it wasn't until, like, 6 months later, they finally brought me on full time because they basically had to wait till the fiscal year ended, which at the
Oh.
time was, like, July, and so all that got approved, and they brought me on full time. And, sorry, I tend to, like, forget the question because I kind of, like, go off on a tangent.
No, no,
But,
you're kind of giving us the background of, like, what happened within your early days of fashion design. I mean, it was kind of like that excitement and that beginning versus when it started, like, when you started thinking, "Wow, this pace is really a lot for me. I love fashion. I love maybe being creative, but I think I could put that into something that's more sustainable for me."
yes, thank you so much for bringing me back because now I remember the question.
Yeah, it
So,
happens.
es essentially, like, what got me to kind of explore different ideas was that when I left Billabong, it made me realize I didn't like being at other places except for being where I was at. But then it made it really hard for me to grow in my position because I find out that, like, back in the days, they used to have this test where, like, if you're left brain or right brain, but now they have all these different tests to talk about, like, how you operate,
Yeah.
and I was always very analytical and creative. I was never one over the other, so it made
Mm.
it really hard for me to, like, grow in what I was doing.
Do you know that,
Like,
test 16 personalities? Like, are you ENFJ, ISFP?
oh, I've taken that test, I just don't remember what my acronyms were.
Huh.
Yeah, because between that test and then the Enneagram test and then the DISC test, like, I found out, like, the DISC test, I'm a C, the Enneagram test, I'm, like, 3, weighing 2 or something, and
I
then
know.
yeah, there's just so many different tests. All I know
Yeah.
is that, like, I just like to do things creatively, and I'm very technical about it, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's how they
yeah.
kinda married each other, and I've learned
That's
that
the
the
best of
reason
both
why
worlds.
it really is, you know,
Yeah.
and I feel like being on the online world, I'm finding that a lot of us are actually pretty much left and right brain, which is why we're doing what we're doing and we love what we're doing, you know?
You have to be when it comes to something like running your own business, and obviously, if you're someone in the design space, I'm in the system space, so there's so much more creative thinking than one might expect, but you really have to, like, be on your A game when it comes to your left brain and your right brain. It's great, and then if you don't, necessarily have that, thank God you're human and you can learn, and even if you don't think so, yes, you can. You just need to figure it out.
So, like, no, I definitely agree with you because I'm sorry, I'm like recircling back to the question again.
Yeah.
is, so the reason what got me to leave was, I just realized I was there for 6 years, and when I went to ask for a pay increase, it was met with hesitation, but I was there for 6 years, and I knew that, like, I either had to pick a lane, like, just go all in designing or all, product development at the time, and I just didn't wanna pick one or the other. And then I also looked at, like, my leadership team, and I don't know, for some reason at that moment, I just felt like, I don't think this is it, like, I could
Mm.
either keep on looking for a new job or just kinda branch out and start my own thing. And so that was when I took the leap, and then I bought that course with Aaron, and then up level my skill with website design and learn everything about I can about digital marketing, and it just kind of went off from there, and that passion just kind of continued. Like, I just became hyper fixated and focused on yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't necessarily come from a place of like super like hyper burnout. It was just like, okay, it's time to pivot and things naturally happen. Like I know you have 203 now, and now you're like, okay, this space that I'm in right now, it allows me to have more flexibility in my role as a mom.
Well, I would have to say towards the end of my year with Billabong, it was like 6 years at that point, I did kinda start feeling the burnout, and so that was also another reason where I was like, "I need to get out now because this is a time where, like, I'll either end up being a very bad employee, or I could just be really good and do a clean exit and just
Really?
go,"
Yeah.
And so I remember putting in my 6-month notice, because I think we bought the course in November of 2020, and I put in my 6-month notice because it's also really hard to leave a job, and I'm a people pleaser, and so I knew that if I needed to leave, I would have to leave by February because on the calendar year for fashion design world, especially for fast fashion, is that, like, that's when Lunar New Year happens, and that's when the factory shuts down. So in order for me to leave
The
clean and
factories
not
in
feel like I'm
China.
the factory's in China. So to make sure I'm leaving clean and not burning any bridges, I knew that I needed to wrap things up and be out by beginning of February. And so I once I kind of knew in my heart that like this is not it for me anymore, I need to get out of this
Yeah.
and I just need to hard pivot. Cause also like we're young. It's just like at
Yeah.
the time I think I was like 28. I was just like, I can go and work for myself and figure it out. And if I don't like it, I have my 5 years in the industry, I can find a job again, and, it's not that big of a deal, just give it a try, and so
Yeah. I remember
I
when
took
you were
yeah,
thinking about, like, quitting, but I didn't know that you gave them a 6-month notice. It's really I mean, obviously, you explained why, but that's really good, like, they can't complain.
unless maybe it's a little bit less than 6 months, my math is bad, but
Even
yeah,
if it's
but
5
from
months.
November to February yeah, so, like, in that time frame, I just told the team, like, "I don't think this is it for me," and then I kinda kept on going, like, "Is this the right move?" But I guess it's also been my heart from the get-go 'cause, my family, they're all entrepreneurs.
Mm.
Because we're first generation here, so it wasn't like we had like my they didn't it wasn't like they had an education that translated to a job in corporate anyways. So for them, it was just like seeing how hard they grinded and work, I was like, "You know what? We didn't come all the way to America just for me to be in corporate anyways, like, I just need to give this a try. It's in my blood to be entrepreneur, just give it a try." And
Uh,
so it was
I
just
love
a mix
that.
of different things that I was just like, "Yeah, let's give myself a chance and then go with that."
I love that. Um, kind of continuing on to that, the phrase "build a business around your life," what does that actually look like on, let's say, a random Tuesday with 2 under 3?
On a random Tuesday, it's based on my energy. So if I had a long weekend and I spent all Monday trying to catch up and clean up from not doing my chores over the weekend, Tuesday looks like me starting to work. On a random Tuesday, it could be me taking them out and about to get treats. Um, it just kind of fluctuates. So yeah, before it used to be like a set schedule, but with 2 kids, with like the newborn and a toddler, it's just like we're just gonna go with the flow
You
and then
have to
work at
give
odd
yourself
hours.
up to, like, yeah, the randomness of, of it all. 'Cause they don't know or really truly care. They can't. They just got here.
And And it's basically like my schedule looks like whatever my priority is for the day. Like I have my 3 top priorities. I don't really write them down. I just have it in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are the goals that I have. And depending on what it is, I just kind of shift my schedules and days based on what I want to achieve, whether it be personal or work wise. So
Yeah. Okay. So, when it comes to a launch you're proudest of, what was broken before? What did you end up building, and what was the business result? 30, you know, I don't know how long necessarily it takes for a build like that. But yeah, just however many days later.
So one of the ones that I was super proud of was this directory I built for this one gal. She started her business about 3 years ago, and it's called Opulist. So it's basically a directory where you can find all the aesthetic places to go to around the US, and she's hopefully gonna launch soon and like oversee.
Oh, really? For
Yeah.
photographs, weddings?
Actually, you can use any of these places for any of that reason. But her whole main goal point is basically like she's like the Yelp, but instead of like focusing on the review, she's focusing on the aesthetics of the restaurants and the hotels. And from there, she basically has this extensive breakdown of like what are some cute cafes you can go to work at, what are some cute restaurants you can go to. And for me, being in LA, because I'm actually originally from the East Coast, um,
Really,
like
where?
we just love North Carolina.
Mm.
So so being from the East Coast and now in LA, like finding like cute restaurants, especially for like special events like my birthdays or anniversary, and having that all in an aesthetic spot is like such an amazing resource. And
It matters. Sorry, it does.
it does, because I don't care how the food tastes. Like I just care about the vibes, and that's literally what she delivers. She delivers good vibes, and food and drinks and all that will come as
Third
like
and
a
fourth.
bonus, but it's not like the main part, you know? Like I
Yeah,
just want to be in my sparkly dress and with my girls and take cute pictures, and that's all I care about, you know?
period.
And so she basically did hard work for that. And so I we actually got connected through a Facebook group. Someone had put out a request for a designer slash developer that could create like an aesthetic directory. So I pitched my name in because I had worked with another Botox company called Illuma, and I created them this really cute like directory of like all the injectors that were located in Southern California for their brand. And so when Opulus, her name, the founder Sarah, when she saw that, she was like, "Oh, I like this." And so I got the opportunity to work with her, and basically I redesigned her directory on Squarespace, which is actually really hard because Squarespace is so simple, but there's not a lot of plugins to make it work.
Yeah.
And I was able to find the developer who created this plugin I used and kind of ask some basic questions, and was able to create this gorgeous like website, well, landing page, because I didn't redo her whole website. She had another designer previously, but I basically reamped up her directory, and it allowed for her to be able to portray the vision that she always wanted. And that project made me so proud on a personal level because it enhanced my coding skill. Because the code that I got is built from another wonderful developer. And
It was on Squarespace,
he
right?
no, it's not what's well, the whole website is still on Squarespace, but the plugin I use is with like a third party creator.
Yeah.
And he's been around since, I don't know, like 2010 or so, but he's been around for a hot minute. And he's super intelligent and bright. And so I kind of like showed him this quick mock-up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely doable." And so long story short, I was able to inspect the code, which is like figure out how this person created this layout on a different platform and then translate this for her website.
Yeah.
And that project was when I finally fully understand coding. And that happened like last year. And what made me proud, not only with that project on a personal level, was that after we launched it, because now she has her vision executed the way she wanted, it allowed for her to show up online with more confidence and be able to like showcase what she's doing to other potential investors for her
Show and
company.
tell.
Yes. And so like before we had launched her new directory, she was around 4,000 and some change followers on Instagram. And then after we launched it, it like went up like, I don't know, like by August, I think she had like 10,000 followers, like it doubled. And then
Wow.
it's been a year now up to this point, and she's close to 100,000 followers.
What?
And yes. And what's crazy was that, like, what made me so proud to be part of this journey is that, like, I didn't necessarily do anything different. It was just that I was able to execute the vision that she had and allowed for her to take that and show people like, "Hey, look at my website. This is what I want to do." And people are like, "Oh, I love this idea." And so she's gotten like, you know, compensated hotel stays and some other compensations and whatnot. But she's growing,
Yeah.
is basically what I'm saying, and it's a small team of her and her wonderful like marketer and another business partner that she has or so. I should have read up on the technicalities before, but all to say was that like that was one of my proudest projects because not only did it grow me as a designer developer, and from also creating it, going back to your question of like how long it took me, was that I initially estimated being like a month-long project. It ended up being like 2 months to maybe 6 months, and that's just because all the stuff that's happening in the back end of Squarespace that kind of like broke the plugin for a bit that I had to kind of like troubleshoot. And so that project grew me as a developer and designer, but also it's just been so cool to see like us being like it was really cool to see us collaborating together and then her taking the final product and being able to like grow exponentially.
I think
And
it's
so
so cool. Like, I think it definitely makes sense. Obviously, if your niche is gonna be like about finding aesthetic places to have the website be aesthetic too, like your target audience is gonna care. But it's so cool when you like have your dreams realized, especially with somebody else's help. It really, I feel like, empowers you, creates this effect to be able to move forward with a lot of the other things that you might have within your business with a lot more confidence. And I'm sure I have like so many like related effects, you know?
it's definitely like a rippling effect and it's so cool to see a witness and like I don't know, she's not the sweetest person ever too. She's like always giving me like shout outs here and there and then um just the kindest person to work with, and I'm sure she's really kind and loving in person as well, so but yeah, if you get a chance to check it out, the website's called oculus.co,
Okay,
and
I will.
the website looks gorgeous and so is the mobile, and yeah, it was the first project where it stretched me as a designer and developer, and then be able to see the fruit of the labor, like, I mean, obviously, she did the hard work because all the marketing and all of that, but still, just to have something to complement the hard
Yeah,
work for marketing and having it taking off is just amazing.
it's
So,
amazing. I love that.
yeah.
Um, okay. When it comes to templates versus custom builds, I'm really interested in your answer to this. When it comes to templates versus custom builds, when is a template smart and when is it more of like a crutch? Like, what's your process when it comes to using templates and custom builds, all of that?
So for me, I think it depends on where the person is. Before, it used to be like I used to kind of approach templates as like, oh, it's great if you don't have a website. But I would also say it's also great if you have an idea and you're not sure on how it's going to work and you just need to get a website up and going. I think a template's really great
Mm.
because then you can capture the data and then be
Yes.
able to use that data to really custom build what you actually need rather than wasting all the money in front end, creating something
Yeah.
that you think you need, but you don't need it. So that's when I think templates are really good. But yeah, before I used to think like, oh, like we don't have a website, start off with like a custom template. But I mean, I still believe that, but I also believe that if you have a side quest or a side idea that you want to like execute, I think having a template will save you so much time to just get out there, get going. And the most important part is to capture the data and seeing where people are coming from, where they're navigating to on your website, and then
Yeah.
how you can improve upon that. I think that's what's important the most.
Yeah. Just get started, and then start tweaking. I don't remember where the quote came from, but even when it comes to like creating anything, it's like, yeah, the quote is like, create like a child and edit like a professor. You know,
I
just,
like
you
that.
know what I'm saying? Like, The child doesn't hesitate. It shows you their like artwork and they do it with confidence. And after that, just edit. And the result can really lead to the same outcome. So I love that. So the
I
next
mean, I would say,
yeah,
sorry, I was gonna say that's also true as business owners when we create content for our social media. They're always saying like, at this point, just produce a bunch of content and then tweak later because then you'll get the analytics that you need to improve upon that.
literally.
So
Yeah, it's just about accepting that it's not gonna be perfect the first time. It's unnatural to expect it to be perfect the first time. And I think in other different areas, so it's just like just get it out there. Just get it out there. You will learn. It'll be fine. The next question is, and I'm really interested in this as well. So a lot of social first founders, people who really like have their Instagram or their LinkedIn as where they really find leads. And they don't really necessarily have a website. They say, my Instagram is my homepage. Make the case for the website in 30 seconds.
I think it all depends on what products they're selling. If it's a low ticket item, something from like 0 to under $100, I think you can get away with social media.
Stand story?
If it's yeah, like a stand store, standalone store. I know like some, like even TikTok, you can just sell directly on your shop
Yeah.
once you hit a certain like threshold. So I think that's okay just to work off of your social media account. But I think once you kind of pass that and you're ready for exponential growth, even as a service provider, or you want to like launch that idea to an investor, I think that's when you really need a website.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Interesting. And then templates. What are the biggest mistakes buyers make? And how do you design your templates to make it? Do you know how many templates you have? Do you really just kind of build a new website and you're able to like templatize it, if that's a word? Yeah, like, yeah, let me know.
So you're catching me at a good time. So in the season that I am in with the two kids, I'm taking a pivot from like one-on-one client work to focus on templates. And
Mm,
essentially what I am doing, because I had a template I had launched like in 2022, and I end up dropping that template now. And what I learned at the time was that I think the mistake that people make is buying a template that is not suited to what they need. So they try to take a template that they see and they're trying to hodgepodge it together, and they don't have all the information that they need. And so what I'm doing now to kind of like streamline my process is
yeah.
I'm creating a template specific for that certain industry. And so like for example, like I'm actually currently working with a personal fitness trainer. And, she's been following me for some time, and she was sharing excitement back around May about how she's super excited about my template shop dropping. And I kind of like dropped the ball because I have not created anything because I was trying to juggle client work, and I was also really pregnant at the time.
Mhm.
And so it was just not going to happen. And because I wasn't showing up consistently on social media, I assumed that no one else was kind of following me. So I just felt like if I didn't produce the shop, no one's going to see it, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But she noticed. And, and so then I just kind of was very honest with her. I was like, "I haven't really started on this template." And so I was like, I've kind of been wrestling with this idea. This is kind of a crazy request or like question, but like, what do you think about me creating a website for you? Essentially like a custom website, but templeable so I can resell it. And then that would be like your template that is geared towards the industry. And I get to get your insight on what you actually need and the terminologies you use. And so that's what I'm kind of doing right now is I'm wrapping that up with her and I'm setting up my funnel and all that, which luckily my past self did that in 2022. So I'm super fortunate to have those notes to kind of like pick up and clean up the mess again. But yeah, so my goal is once I get that launch, it's a personal fitness template. My goal is to do the same and repeat that process for other industries. And so I think, yeah, I don't know. I've had a few people that I've talked to that wanted like a new website build, but I just don't have the bandwidth to, especially because I want to focus on creating templates to serve others. and then to be able to streamline my process so I can use that same template version and create something custom or semi-custom for someone and give them a similar results that I did with Oculus and my other previous clients. So that's what I'm kind of focusing on now is that.
Okay, that's exciting. And you're gonna start talking about it and all that, and promoting it more.
Yes, I think the hardest part is right now, like showing up online has been kind of tough because I have so many different ideas.
Yeah,
And so I'm just trying to silence that noise by finishing up the project and start talking more about the template. And I think I've came to the conclusion that, all this knowledge that I've gained since I've created templates and the growth that I've seen other people once I've kind of worked with them. I kind of want to start using that template as to help portray that story, if you will, So
yeah,
that's how I'm gonna kind of approach my marketing. And I think that'll help me with a lot of my mental roadblock to kind of show up and figure out how to share what I'm doing and provide value.
yeah. And I'm sure there's so many stories. I mean, even just a story that you told me about that website, the directory website. I mean, I'm sure there's so many stories out there that you can really put out there, and yeah, like the people, they deserve to hear them. Especially
Thank you.
even if it's in your template, you can kind of weave that in. Um, but
Ye-
yeah. So,
Yeah, I think currently I'm like experimenting different ways because once I kind of like done with the template part, I want to create more content to help people show up as a content creator because I seem like we all have to market ourselves one way or the other.
yeah.
Uh, so I kind of want to share that knowledge as well. So
I love that. I'm excited. Okay, so as you know, I'm a system strategist, so there's some questions here about like just systems and running your business. I'm really curious, especially in freelancing unfiltered, we really just want to be able to talk about the realities of freelancing and the businesses and the systems that hold it all together. So this next question is about systems that save you weekly. What's automated? What are your systems? Like what's automated, what's delegated, and what is only Helen can do? What are the tasks that only Helen can do?
what is currently automated is sign up forms, um, email campaigns, the usual. And then what's delegated, I currently don't really delegate anything because I'm still like a one woman show kind of
Mhm.
person. So I'm still figuring that out. But best believe when I get there, it's gonna be a video editor. I think that's gonna be the first thing I'll delegate because it's very time
What
consuming and
videos?
it's it's an art, like editing videos, for like social media and YouTube. But that'll be the first thing I'll delegate. And then personally, I feel like everything else I want to be a part of that because that allows for me to continue on that relationship with my client. So the one-on-one talk and then showing up in the meetings and reading their notes, like I don't think I would ever want to outsource that. And even creating my own content, I would kind of want to be continue to do that for myself, even though it's really tough and hard, just so that like I don't know, I get used to doing it before I kind of delegate that side of the part.
Okay, cool. And then next question is when it comes to like AI site generators and I don't know, instant copy, obviously I can really get into this, but I it's so funny, like, because I'm always trying to keep up with the AI space and see what's going on. I don't want to be left behind. I'm like, it's so interesting to see what people really promote in their websites or in the industry and really test it out. I'm always already skeptical. And there's all this like chatter about instant AI websites, and I look at it and I'm like, but I still have to test it anyway, so I can be vindicated, and I usually am. But when it comes to things like that, AI site generators and instant copy, like where are you using AI today, and where do you think like it's a trap?
I think it's a I think it's a trap when you want to use it for everything, like the layouts and how you want to lay out the things. Like if you just kind of press a button and say like generate. But I think where you can use AI to save time is if you kind of do that layer by layer. So I guess it's so crazy how far AI has come because now I kind of call this like the old school
We
way, maybe.
started
Is
it's
that
it feels crazy to me that we started without all of that because I use it so much when it comes to like doing research and like shopping some of the systems that I could lay out for clients and really just getting it back and forth. And it's helped me so much with my delivery time. It feels crazy to think that we were like, let's dive into this without that technology, you know?
Yeah, it has allowed me to show up and produce work so much faster and quicker with AI, which is super amazing. Like, I think with AI, like, I think it's good when you do it in small chunks. Like for me, like as a website designer developer, like what that looks like is I like to do my research first, like to see what the industry is doing, what the competitors are doing. And then I like to go through AI in my course. I like to use ChatGPT and just kind of like ask it like questions like, hey, in this industry, what are like people's concerns? What is not being addressed on websites? Like, how can I prove that? So I use it as like market researching.
Hmm.
And then from there, based on my knowledge of like what's a great landing page, I basically kind of go there and I kind of filter and I kind of like take a suggestion and see if it makes sense to what I already know. And then I either take a suggestion or I kind of like, okay, well, I see what you're saying there, but we're just going to keep with this old school way because this seems to
Yeah.
work. So we're not going to switch this up. So I think it's smart when you use AI for that purpose. But when you start to use it as like I said, for the website, so I know like even on Squarespace, like you can generate a layout and I've used that function before. The layouts are never what I want. Like it doesn't make any sense. And so I don't think that's a good way to go about it. And also I think like nowadays with everyone getting so tired of everything being AIified, I think that
Can't get away from it.
I think they're gonna crave for human touch. I mean, even just now, even without AI, people are already craving for like community and in-person meetings, you know? So I can only imagine that the more we keep on pushing out AI, people are gonna crave more of like, that's really cool, but it's really nice to bounce ideas back and forth with someone else than with like an AI system, you know? So
Yeah.
that's where I think where it could go wrong is if you rely on that so heavily and miss the human connection.
Yeah, I agree. I think like, yeah, I could go into it, but I think we're seeing more and more people understanding because I think obviously like it literally just came out like what 3 4 years ago. Everybody was caught up. Obviously, the people who were building it were pushing it a lot and hyping it up, which is like, I get it. You do what you gotta do. But people are finally
Mhm.
having a more a holistic understanding of where they can use it and where they really shouldn't, unless it's just gonna decrease the quality and it's not gonna help anybody. So it's really nice to be able to feel more stable in that way. And I'm sure that was a really that was a pretty destabilizing event. And I hope we don't have any more new tools for at least like 10 years. Like, let's give it a break.
You know that's not gonna happen. They've already just released, like if I don't have your own threads, but they just talked about, like, Canva meets Infinity, and everyone's freaking out about
What's
that,
going on there?
and
What?
AI this. So, there's this tool called Affinity. It's basically, like, the much more accessible version of Adobe Illustrator,
Okay.
and so it seems that Canva and Affinity has merged together, so now people could basically end up creating similar stuff that Adobe Illustrator's users have been using for a while.
With Canva.
So it's
I
been
use Canva.
with Canva. I know a lot of people are. So it's going to be game changing to see what that looks like and what people create. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting with like what they're using with AI because I believe based on the amount of stuff that I saw on Threads was that Affinity, the reason why they're able to do what they're doing is that it's been trained on a lot of AI systems and models, which is how it's able to allow people on Canva to create as someone who has been doing old school way with the illustrators, you know? So
I
I don't know. Tomato, tomato.
yeah.
It's just a tool.
Yeah, Canva is one of the websites that I am like I obviously I unsubscribe to them and I get their mailing list and I always see like I don't know, every like 6 weeks, 2 months. There's like a launch event going on. And I'm always generally excited because I think like if Canva is able to get to a place with AI and yeah, with AI and tools, it could be really cool. So I need to check that out. I have no idea how I missed that. Um yeah. So, when it comes to things like pop-ups, chat widgets, the like, lead magnets. What actually grows lists, like mailing lists from websites in 2025?
For that one, I'm not such an expert in that one because I'm still figuring that out. And I feel that with each industry, the lead magnet is different. So
Mm,
it all kind of depends on what the people is asking for. And what I've gathered is that the lead magnet needs to be simplified. It needs to produce actionable steps for someone to go from point A to point B really quick
yeah.
and get them hooked to want to continue to work with you and want to buy from you more. So for an online service provider, that can look very different versus someone who's an e-commerce who's selling physical product. So like on the online service provider side, I've seen like good ones is checklists. Checklist is a really quick, like digestible thing to give someone and not feeling overwhelmed. On the e-commerce side, I think providing samples in your products will allow for someone to test out new things. And so it's not them really like it's not really them giving you an email yet, but they've already purchased from you. So dropping a few samples for them to try here and there will allow for them to test out new products and to keep them coming back to you. So I think those are a couple of different ways depending on what you're doing and what you're serving. But like I said, every industry is different. And so just depends on what the people is asking for and you just kind of provide it to them in an easy way for them to digest.
Okay, great. What beliefs about doing it all, did you have to unlearn to stay sane?
I think the unbelief I've had is basically you the timeline. The timeline that you have and set for yourself. You gotta be kind to yourself and just give yourself grace. I realized like this about a couple weekends ago where basically I've always put myself in this tight pressure timeline. Like I need to get this done by this timeline or else it's not going to happen. And I've realized that if I just come slow down and prioritize my health and balance things out, like I'm only pushing my timeline back by like 2 months, which is doable to make sure I don't lose my sanity.
Yeah.
So I think that right there is for someone who likes to do it all and wants to be doing it all, is that you just kind of have to give yourself some grace and flexibility. And also, I've also learned that maybe it's just best not to announce a timeline out to everyone. I feel like sometimes that adds way too much pressure. And I know that like there's this whole thing like if you announce it, it'll keep you accountable, but then it leads you to this craziness burnout and crash out. So like what that looks like for some people is that you execute it on timeline, but then you end up taking out 2 or 3 months just to, like, re-energize again
Yeah.
and figure out life again. It's like, well, what's the point? Why do all that, you know? So, I feel like, yeah, if you're a do it all and you want a balance, I think just be okay with not knowing and just being flexible.
Okay, I love that. When it comes to timelines, this question is related to that. From first inquiry to launch, what's that like, exact pipeline that you run when it comes to like intake, proposals, contracts, like content collection, building it, any kind of revisions and then actually delivery? Like what projects, so that the projects ship on time, even when, you have a situation with life, childcare that makes your plan timeline, go wonky.
Um, Sorry, can you rephrase that where are you basically asking me,
Like
like, what is it that I need to do to meet the
yeah,
timeline?
like, how do you ensure like, do you tell your clients that, like, do you give them an exact timeline in the first place, or do you just kinda give them a range? How do you kind of, like, do buffers so that you're able to have that flexibility?
So, what I've kind of started doing recently, and I really like this process, is that I'll give them like a rough estimate of what I think it takes. But I'll also say that, especially during like the discovery phase before they even sign the contract, that like I will keep you posted and updated every Friday if we don't meet that timeline. Like, are we okay with pushing it out? Like, I
Mm,
know you have this expected at a certain time, but if we're not going to meet it, whether it be it's from their end or my end, like, the whole purpose of us communicating is that I will keep them, updated every Friday,
mhm.
whether it be through email, and sometimes email on Friday, I kind of forget, or not really forget. I'm actually really working until like 2 o'clock in the morning. So my day hasn't really ended.
Yeah,
So sometimes I'm giving them that update on the Saturday. But I think that open communication kind of helps me build up buffer and not burning bridges. And that has worked out really well in my situation.
that's so true. Just really being able to be, like, communicative about that. I think sometimes, like, you can get in your head and you're like, "Okay, I can do this," but you really just have to make sure that you communicate with them, and then everything else will be able to fall into place.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so when people say Squarespace isn't for quote unquote serious businesses, what can you say to be able to defend or debunk that?
I I don't. I just like, "Okay, cool, let's talk about it." Like, what are you currently using? What's your setup like? I mean, you're doing what you're doing with tech stack. Like, I think the best question to ask is like, "What does your tech stack look like?"
Yeah.
Like, you're right, maybe the website doesn't make sense for you. If you don't like dealing with tech and you don't wanna outsource it after it's done and hand it over to you, you don't need to do that. Maybe you need to focus on email marketing. Maybe you focus on in-person networking.
Yeah.
I mean, a website to me is just like an easy way for someone to digest who you are, and depending on what kind of buyers they are or where they are in their buying journey, it allows for them to have more time to digest who you are, and it gives you a glimpse of who you are as a person because it's basically like an invitation, like, "This is my house, this is what I offer." And if you don't think it's right for you, I'm not gonna sit there and argue because at the end of the day, like, it kinda goes to nowhere. And, yeah, if they're not a serious business owner, then that's cool. They have their own way of doing things, and that's okay, so.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to the most you've ever undercharged, yeah, what is the most you've ever undercharged, and what would you feel like you would um kind of build today depending on your oh yeah, like how do you kind of like bill yourself and how do you price yourself? I know people talk about things like market rate. I think sometimes people can really get bogged into what the market rate of their industry is and not necessarily like who they are, what their life skill is, and really making sure that price matches. So yeah, how do you like kind of approach that?
I think all my projects, I priced them fair. I mean, my first project was the lowest, and that was mostly because I want to, like, gain experience, and so I was happy to do that.
Yeah.
But I think every one of them after that, I did increase my price, and at some point, I did felt like I didn't charge enough, but I was still at the learning phase, so at the end of the day, I felt that, like, wow, like, I got to give out this price that I didn't think was possible to do, and I was able to give that number and accepted it. So, in a way, that's an accomplishment, so but so far, I haven't really had one where I just feel like, "Man, I super undercharge on this." Because a lot of times it's like a brand new approach to it, and I'm trying to figure it out, and the platform's always changing. And so each time I work on something new, I now know, like, okay, this is my starting point going forward for this kind of type of project. So everything's been a learning journey for me. So yeah.
Okay, I love that. Um, I'm just laughing. I love this question. Who should not be on Squarespace, even if they beg you? Or like who should not like be building a website, even if they beg you, or you know what I'm saying? Who doesn't need one at all?
I think the people that don't need it are the ones that don't use it at all. Like they're not driving their traffic to their website. You don't need it. I think the ones that also don't
But how
need
can
it
they drive traffic
are
to the website if they don't have it yet? Like, so how would you know they won't use it?
so because I've seen people that like do speaking engagement that done really well that only has a landing page, like for whatever platform they have, and that's it. And I've seen other people that just have a stand store. And so it just depends on what tool they're using to drive engagement. And if it's simple for them to maintain it, like I don't think they need a website.
Yeah.
Um, and
You know
then
that their conversion is
yeah,
strong coming from the speaking engagements, and they've told you that they're not necessarily trying to, even grow or anything like that or do anything with the website other than like I've been told that I need a website.
Usually that is the case, but I've just been exposed to other people that have shown me otherwise, and that was because early on, I used to, like, pitch the idea, "You need a website, you need a website,"
Mhm.
and it wasn't until I heard other people succeeding without a website that I was like, "Huh, I guess you kind of don't need one." I mean, it's nice to have, but and the reason why I say you don't need it at some times is because a lot of people go into depth with a custom
They
website
do.
because it's very expensive. It's a lot of work. And that designer and developer deserves that pay. But for on a business standpoint, that person use a lot of their resources when they could focus on different marketing strategies, before they get there.
So
So I
I
think it really
assume
depends.
that that's in your kind of like discovery call. I love that honesty that you lead with because I feel like, even with OSD and everywhere we go, we've been told like website. You need a website, even if you don't really need one, like create one anyway, just in case. So I love that, you're able to be transparent about that. And I'm sure like within that discovery call or um kind of consulting call, you're able to let them know this is something you might need, something you might not.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it just depends on what their goals are.
Mhm.
Like also for someone who may not want to be on Squarespace is that if they have like an e-commerce store that, like, they, have some complicated taxing and delivery ways, like, they wanna be on Shopify.
Yeah.
Um, and then for someone else that, has a bunch of tech stack they're trying to hodgepodge together, maybe Squarespace is not the right one as well, because sometimes all the tools don't talk, and they may need to build it from the ground up, like, through, like, Drupal and some other type of platform where you just kind of build it from scratch, an open source platform. And so I think at the end of the day, it just really starts off with, like, what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve, and then you kind of, like, assess, like, well, does it make sense to have a website here? The one thing going back to what you said about some freelancers, though, I feel like what does set you apart if you're trying to pitch your service and you don't have, like, clients already, I think you definitely want a website for that purpose because the people that are gonna hire you versus another person is that, like, if all they have is their social media account, they're not gonna really take you serious. So the one pros of getting a website is that you're being viewed as someone who's taking their business very serious and that, like, you're just not
It's
around
trust building.
to mess
Yeah.
around. Is trust building because I've seen it where some people like, I mean, even for me as a buyer, it'll be kind of hard for me to, like, request for someone to help me in my business if they don't have their own website because I'm giving you a lot of confidential information that you have to handle. And if
Mhm.
you don't have your own website, I don't feel like I can trust you with that. And so I feel like if that's the industry you're in, especially as an online service provider, definitely should probably have a website. But like I said, it really depends on where you are in your journey of your life and what you're doing. And then kind of assessing like, does a website make sense or should you focus on other marketing strategies and then do a simple landing page? So it just really all depends.
Okay. Um, when it comes what's your three-step triage when you see this gorgeous site that this client wants you to revamp, but it's just strangely quiet on that, metric side?
First off, I think when it's too minimal and everything's all the same color, I know that's very popular in the minimal aesthetic beige girl kind of
Uh-huh.
thing, and I love it too. But I've realized colors really help with the conversion. For example, like buttons. If I can't find your buttons, like I'm not gonna click to wherever you need for me to go, you
Yeah.
know? And so the same is true when I go to a website where I'm like, oh, this is gorgeous, but it's just like I want to get to point A to point B really fast. I don't want to have to like sit there and read through your whole website. So if I can't find your buttons, like I'm not gonna click. The other thing is site accessibility with the colors. Some people use colors that are really hard to read, and I find that when they try to make it way too cute or too different, that does not help out with conversion either because the person's just like, there's something about this website. I don't want to be on here anymore. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
leave.
you think about accessibility,
Um,
right? And even when it comes to like, the
yeah.
full-on accessibility thing, it's gonna help people who don't necessarily need that either to make things more readable, to make things feel more intuitive. Yeah.
The other thing I noticed is fonts. For some reason, some people like to use tiny little fonts. Like it looks really cute, but people can't read that.
Mhm.
And so that's been that too that I've seen that land on. I'm just like, "Oh, this is such a gorgeous website, but I can't read this font. Like, it's too little and I don't wanna read it."
Yeah.
My other thing is that, people who enjoy center aligning their blocks of text, and I think it's because when I kinda start learning more about user accessibility, left aligned is the way to go, especially if someone's, like, dyslexic or they, like, trying to follow with what you're writing or skimming. It makes it really hard to skim what you're writing if it's all center aligned because you don't know where you last read at and where it ended at or starts at, you know?
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of the times when I see a really gorgeous website and they didn't focus on user accessibility, but just on the pretty side of things, I think that's when the conversion doesn't happen.
Okay. Good to know. Um, what did you stop doing that instantly made the business easier?
I'm drawing a blank on that one because I don't think there's one that I've done because I'm still in the oh, well, I guess, like, what I'm kind of stop or starting to do is, leaning more on building digital products to kind of help build my income and not rely so much on one-on-one client work. And I think, I'm still in the early phase of it, but essentially, I think that'll eventually help me to be able to create content to provide more
Yeah.
value. Because what I've realized in the past was that I had focused way too much on client work and didn't market myself, and that didn't help me as a whole as a business. Because then that client work kind of dried up,
Uh,
and then now as I'm like working on the website templates, like unfortunately I don't have anyone I need to respond to, but the bank account is not that happy, you
yeah.
know. So I think like what I'm doing now is that my tips for anyone that's out there is like kind of focus on something that you can do that, like, doesn't require one-on-one attention all the time, but still take one-on-one client work just so that you're aware of what's happening, what's going, and that you're not losing touch of what the people need. And so, yeah, that's what I'm currently doing is focusing on digital downloads to help me with that
Yeah, the
and
passive
not, like,
offers.
get stuck on one-on-one client. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I'm focusing on that I think that'll help.
So stop focusing on client work so much. And yeah, start focusing a little bit more on your business, getting that balance.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard for how you can make that achievable because everyone has different needs and like so many time or so much time in the day. But if you can just kind of chip out a little at a time, you'll eventually create that one thing that will give you some free time.
Yeah, I agree exactly. Um, yeah. What is one myth within your industry that you wish that we'd retire going into, next year?
One myth. Oh, the biggest one I've seen is everyone saying SEO is dead. Like the old school traditional blogging. I was like, it is
But you
not
know why they're
dead.
saying that, right?
Like,
Because of the AI, people are saying people aren't using Google anymore, that they're using, ChatGPT to do web search and, whatever like ChatGPT pulls up is what pulls up. So they're like, oh yeah, it's about what is it? I don't know what they replaced it with, like AI SEO or something like that.
mhm. So the way how AI SEO works is that it relies on your traditional SEO to send these bots to scan what your website's all about. That's how they get the information to regurgitate on AI, on ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever platform you're
Uh-huh.
using. So, like, so that's the one thing I would like for people to stop saying that SEO is dead is that, like, it's not dead. It's very well and alive. It's what helps people find the content. And there's different strategy depending on what platforms you're in and how the keywords work. But overall, like I would like for people to stop saying SEO is dead and to take it serious because it'll literally help improve their business so much than just relying on paid ads to get conversions in, you
Yeah.
know? So
So, going back to the question about the three steps triage, is that something that you really look at as well when it comes to, pretty websites that don't have the numbers that you might expect them to have? Really looking into their SEO?
SEO is kind of complex because like well, it can be complex. So like when I first started doing it, like I was able to gain a lot of tractions for like one of the clients I work with, but then I realized that it didn't fit the goal that they needed. So like what I meant by that is like for example, one of my first few projects was creating a website for a
Mhm.
church. their goal is not necessarily trying to make money. They're just trying to get out there to let people know, like, hey, we're a church that exists here. And so we just want newcomers to come to our church. That's about it, you know? And so that was a different goal that I had to like figure out. But I was interjecting like keywords, and I also focus a lot on the technical SEO, which is basically making the site accessible for Google and also for people that use like the readers to kind of like if they can't read on their website. I'm like blanking out on the name of that right now. But essentially, like, I was able to bring them a lot of traffic because, like, before we launched, they had, like, 500 visitors, and then the following month, they had 1,500 visitors, and then agreed to 8,000 to, like, 10,000, and then plus visitors a month, you know?
Mm,
And I basically interjected keywords, but I didn't do strategically for locally. So, like, there's different methods, and so when someone's not doing well on their website, it and even if they have a blog, usually I could kind of see why because 'cause they're not using the correct keyword for their website, and, they're trying to go after keywords that are really hard to reach for their account, for their domain that they have, and so with that, like, it's kind of hard to kinda, like, figure out, like, how to fix
yeah.
that. So what I kinda started doing is that I have, like, a strategy workshop in a way where I basically say, like, "Hey, if you wanna work together on a website, I'm just gonna comb through all of your website, see what your goals are, and I'm gonna map out, like, this is what we need to focus on, and we can do it milestones at a time, so it's not so much work, and we can pivot as we need to once we get the data in." And that has worked out really well. And so, yeah, if I see website not working, it, like, depends on what their goals are. Like, it depends on what their long-term goals are and what their immediate goals are, and then we can kinda go from there.
Okay.
But, yeah, SEO is definitely always one of the reasons why they're not getting new clients, but sometimes they don't even need it if they're, like, a local restaurant.
Okay. And then this is kind of getting into the more unhinged segments. So we have kind of I finished a sentence. We have like four of them, and yeah, you just let me know what you think about what the end of the sentence is. You ready? Most template shops fail their buyers because blank.
They mm, they fail their buyers by I'm trying to think because like,
Or some template shops.
probably some template shops, I feel like they focus way too much on the prettiness of it and not, like, how it actually works. Like, a lot of people think that they know how it works, but I feel like they haven't spent enough time on, like, studying, like, what converts and then translating that to template,
So you think
if
that
that
is
makes
possible
sense.
even if when even when it comes to something that's pure template. Yeah. And then what do you people think
It
about setup as
yeah.
well? Do you feel like they have like a good um setup process that's clearly outlined for the buyer?
I think if they have set it up and they proceed it in a way where it's easy to update and they keep everything updated, like the tutorials on how to update it, I think that they're
Mm,
good.
okay. Okay, next one. Designers should stop promising blank and start guaranteeing blank.
They should stop guaranteeing results and the outcomes. I think a lot of times when we hear these stories, it's like, "Oh, that could be the next me if I work with you." And I think that they should start guaranteeing that if you use if you partner up with me and you up your marketing or combine that with your current marketing, it is already good, then you'll see some results. But I think you should stop promising a certain results or like a certain like monthly
What do you think they
outcome.
can promise?
Is that if they follow these certain steps and actually being honest what they can actually provide, if not, like, provide a legitimate source to help them get that goal, I think that's what they should do instead.
Okay. I'd rather lose a client than compromise on blank.
My integrity, like, if they're off the cuff and we just don't vibe, we're just not gonna be a good fit. It's not we're not gonna enjoy the journey working together. So, at that point, I usually just like, "Okay, cool, let me reach out to my community, figure out, like, what your project's about, and I'll give you like a list of other designers to reach out to, and then I kind of send them off with that. So
Okay, love that. The quickest way to tank conversions for a website is blank.
using the same keywords in all the pages that you have, because it ends up confusing the
Really?
search engines what that actual page is about. So going back to SEO strategy, you want to basically from the get go, if you could possibly, and this is where you work with a copywriter, is you as you're also developing out the layout for the website, you also want to lay out the keywords and what you want to focus on, and then kind of link that towards each other. But you only want to use that like set of keywords for that one page and not try to use that same keyword on multiple pages.
Okay.
Because then it starts to confuse the algorithm and you're going to try to basically, because you're basically kind of competing against yourself
Wow.
on your own domain name. So yeah, when it comes to that, I think that where people get it wrong is not spending enough time on the keyword. The keyword is where it all starts at.
Okay. So what would be some examples of keywords? Because obviously you have to like talk about your brand name, you have to talk about your name, you have to talk about certain like things that are just like within what you're doing. Like let's say if you do weddings, you have to like use the word wedding. Do you have to use the word wedding in there for a lot of the pages? Like, yeah, like just break it down a little bit more.
So there are some like so that you normally have like a basic standard like 5-page website. So it's usually like your home, about, bio, services, and contact page. So you don't necessarily need a keyword for each one of those pages. But the ones that you want to focus on is maybe a keyword for your service page, your about me page, and then the rest you could just kind of focus on your blog and then kind of like link it back to your service page and whatnot. But when it comes to like ranking, it depends on where your goals are. If you're like a travel photographer, you can do a long tail keyword when you're blogging. So you can talk about like how to get ready for your wedding day. And then if you want to focus on a certain region, then you'll add the keyword like in Australia. And if you can get even more specific, like which city in Australia, you do that. So basically they call that the long tail keyword. And then but then if you're trying to and that part kind of takes care of the local side of the things as well. So yeah, like I like to for me, like when it comes to doing all that is that you kind of have to see what the keywords you're using. So the best way to rank for is using a long tail keyword. So like something with that long of a sentence rather than just wedding photographer. Because wedding photographer is very broad. But if you could like take it to very specific and very niche where only like a small volume of people are searching them up, you're gonna do better that way. And that's how you'll succeed with the SEO side of things.
Okay, great. I think we'll end it there. It's about time. So, yeah, thank you so much, Helen, for showing up, for sharing so honestly about what it takes to build a business that runs smoothly. Essay is really deeply human. If you want to connect with her or explore her services, head to helenolivia.com, ITS helenolivia.com. And I'll have that link waiting for you in the show notes. If this conversation resonated with you, take a second to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. Maybe share it with another freelancer, operations manager, founder who needs to hear it. And if you had any big takeaways or light bulb moments from today's episode, I'd love to hear them. Tag me on Instagram, advancewithada, or send me a quick DM. I always love seeing what's clicking for you. So just remember the path to freedom and fulfillment isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what works your way with systems that support you. I'm Ada Wogu, and this has been Freelancing Unfiltered. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.